He lay slumped at the foot of the grave, one hand clutching the stems of crushed wildflowers, the other resting gently on the weathered engraved stone. Lieutenant J. Moore, USMC, KIA, 1968. The night before had rained, leaving his coat damp from the grass. His hat, blown meters away by the wind, lay discarded. He was alone. No one witnessed his final, labored breath or the quiet closing of his eyes. The coroner labeled him homeless. Police dismissed him as another lost soul haunting forgotten places. But when they lifted his jacket and found a faded envelope, not addressed to a person, but to a unit, everything shifted. 3 days later, a Pentagon employee picked up the phone, requested the grave's coordinates, and fell silent. It began. Voiceover. Before we continue, tell us where you're watching. If you believe no soldier should fade into oblivion, like and subscribe to Heartstring Radio. This story starts with a man the world forgot, and ends with a salute that shook Arlington. His name was Ray Navarro. Most knew him as Westport High's quiet custodian, khaki uniform, wire-framed glasses, a limping gait so slow it rendered him invisible. He swept hallways between bells, fixed broken chairs, replenished chalk trays no one noticed. Teachers found him odd. Students thought him a ghost. The vice principal once asked if he'd prefer retiring early. Ray just nodded and kept polishing windows. Every Sunday before dawn, Ray drove 24 kilometers to Route 19 cemetery beside an old truck stop. The gate creaked as he entered, always shut carefully behind him. No companions, no social media posts, just a man with wild daisies or dandelions for a grave no one else visited. The tilting tombstone, moss-choked and rain-blurred, bore a name. Ray traced weakly with his sleeve. He'd whisper, "You're not forgotten, not this week." Then he'd sit, jotting in a worn leather notebook or watching trees whisper secrets to the wind. What he never shared, Ray had never met Lieutenant Moore. A decade prior, he'd stumbled on the grave while searching for his cousin's plot. The name, rank, and silence struck him wrong. A Marine deserved more than neglect. So began the ritual. Weekly, unwavering, even after strokes and unanswered calls to the veterans' office. Students never questioned him, just background noise, a mop and name tag fixture, until a jogger paused at the cemetery, snapped a photo of Ray kneeling in mud, blessing the stone. The caption read, "Man places flowers on forgotten grave for 10 years. It went viral before Ray returned home. He didn't know viral. He used a flip phone, paid bills at the post office, but someone in uniform saw it, someone who knew. By the time they traced the photo to his school, Ray was already at the grave, flowers in hand, peace in his chest. A veteran's nurse called him a lonely old man with stories. But when the Pentagon unsealed the map from his jacket, classified eyes only upon death, generals stiffened. Inside, service records, parts redacted, 2 bronze stars, 1 silver, a citation from a general vanished in 74 Laos. At the bottom, Ray's handwritten note, "I didn't save him, but I never forgot him." It starts here. Silence, memory, a grave. The world nearly let him go. They arrived at my porch in dress uniforms, a storm cloaked in silence. Idiot. Just returned from the cemetery. Boots damp, coffee cooling. When the black limousine glided past, 2 Marines emerged. Not recruits, but high-ranking officers, insignia gleaming. I opened the door, cup in hand. My stomach clenched, a feeling unmatched since Nam, where helicopter rotors rattled bones before sight. Marine, larger. "Mr. Navarro?" I nodded. "Marine. Sir, we need to discuss Lieutenant Moore. This name, before God." His tone carried decades of unspoken duty. I stepped aside. When Marines come 50 years late, you don't ask, you brace. The shorter one, scar splitting his brow, laid a leather file on my kitchen table. It felt heavy, not from paper but the weight of buried truths. "Marine," scarred. We saw the photo, you at the grave. Me. Didn't know. Anyone was watching. Marine, larger. You shouldn't have been. He opened the file. A black and white photo stared back. Lieutenant Moore, young, unsmiling, alive. Our group stood right outside Cayenne, gathered around the nest, smiling in that way you only smile when you've survived something you shouldn't have. Moore stood in the middle, his hand on my shoulder, helmet pushed back as if to say, we've made it another day. Next to the picture was a yellowed page with my service number, the number I hadn't told anyone after I'd come back, and a sealed recognition I hadn't seen since the transfer on the rolling field. Crumpled in a plastic bag on the stand. It was something I shouldn't show to anyone. Sir, said the older Marine, tapping the file. Do you know what that is? I didn't answer. I stared too hard at the crease in the paper where my own handwriting shimmered weakly through the back. He died alone. You shouldn't remember him like that. That's what I'd written. That's what I'd left behind in the file the day I walked away from everything. The medals, the benefits, the forced parades and empty speeches. I wasn't a hero, but Moore carried us every damn time. When the radios cut out, when the evacuation came too late, when the jungle seemed to devour us, he stood straight until the last moment. I shook my head slowly, trying to make sense of it. Why now? I finally asked. Because he's been remembered, the big Marine said without hesitation. And the Corps doesn't forget those who keep watch, even when no one's there to see it. It turned out Moore had no surviving family, no next of kin. The case was cold, his reputation scattered across old microfilms and blackened reports, until someone, me, knelt by his grave every Sunday and spoke 6 words no one else had ever said. The photo online triggered an internal alarm. A day of facial recognition, and within hours they weren't just looking at Moore's grave. They saw my old file, my name, my silence, my choice to disappear instead of calling for honors that belong to the dead, not the living. They'd long been off the radar, the scruffy Marine said, turning to a document stamped with trustworthy, elevated honors. We'd like to change that, with your permission. I almost laughed. I'd done nothing but sit on some grass. The big one leaned forward, his voice like gravel. Not even all the living do that. I didn't know what to say, so I stayed quiet. We sat there in the quiet hum of my kitchen fan, the old clock ticking like a metronome of memory. Finally, the scar stood once. There's a ceremony, he said. We want you there. More for yourself. I watched their boots clatter down my front steps, their car disappearing without a sound. And when I went back inside, when I saw the file still, lying on the table with that black and white photo of a young hand resting on my shoulder, as if it had never left, I did something I hadn't done in years. I saluted. Not the men, not the flag, but the memory that had somehow found its way home. I hadn't expected the bagpipes, not the row of Marines in dress blues marching down the hill like silent sentinels, not the riderless horse, the rifle volley, or the damn drone circling like a vulture, trying to capture grief in 4K. But they'd told me to wear my jacket, the old one with the torn sleeve and the buttons I'd sewn on myself in '73, and to meet them at sunrise at Hill Rest National. I almost didn't go. I sat in the truck, for 10 minutes watching the fog cling to the wet grass, wondering if Moore would have laughed at it all. But when I stepped out and felt the weight of the morning on my shoulders, I knew it wasn't about me. They'd cleaned the grave, leveled it, polished the stone, and re-engraved the name, James M. Moore, 1st Lieutenant, USMC 1944, 1968, never forgotten. A fresh flag waved beside it, a wreath lay like a crown of remembrance and apology. But what broke me wasn't any of that. It was the envelope on the tombstone sealed with wax. My own handwriting stared back. You are not forgotten. Not this. Weak. An officer, a sergeant this time, handed it to me. We found it during the restoration. Thought you should have it back. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I'd been writing variants of that letter for 10 years. A decade of guilt and quiet Sundays. A decade of telling a dead man I was sorry for not pulling him from the blast zone for making it to the chopper when he didn't, for surviving when someone else had no choice. But now there were people here who'd never met Moore. Recruits, officers, local kids with flags they barely knew how to fold. And they all looked at that grave like it was sacred. A general, one I'd only seen once in '71 at Da Nang, appeared and saluted so sharply it seemed to cut the wind. "Mr. Navarro," he said, "Lieutenant Moore's final commendation is entrusted to you as his official representative. Your flowers were the proof for lasting honors under Title 10. This is your ceremony, too." I wanted to tell him I didn't want headlines, my name in gold or blared through loudspeakers. But as I opened my mouth, something else happened. A young man in civilian clothes approached, maybe 20, stiff-backed and nervous. He carried a cheap aluminum cane, no military insignia, just a patch on his shoulder. "UROC." "Sir," he said, voice cracking, "my father served with Lieutenant Moore. He said if I ever got the chance to thank the man who remembered him." He didn't finish. Just handed me a folded note. Inside was a photo I'd never seen. Moore and I sat on sandbags, grinning, boots off, socks drying in the sun. One of those moments war tries to erase but never quite can. "I didn't know this existed," I whispered. The boy nodded. "We searched his footlocker after he died. Found this with your name on the back. He called you the guard." I had no words. I'd never thought anyone else would call me Ray. Then the trumpeter played taps and I stood there lit from within, not by pride, but by duty. Because Moore deserved more than memory. He deserved noise, music, honor. Voices raised not in grief, but reverence. The rifle team fired 3 volleys. Each shot a sentence in a story none of us had been brave enough to finish. Then they folded the flag, slow, methodical, the way Marines do when they want the world to feel every crease. Like a wound healed by time. The sergeant handed it to me. He had no next of kin. "You're it now." I didn't argue. I took it, felt its weight, and nodded. After the ceremony, they unveiled the new monument. Beneath Moore's name, a second line was carved, "In honor of Raymond Navarro 10. Years of unseen service." I didn't cry. Not then. Not until I saw the children, 10, maybe 11 years old, walking up the path with their teacher. Each carried a wildflower. One by one, they laid them at Moore's grave. Not because they knew him, but because someone had told them the story of a man who never really died, and now they'd remember too. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, the display case finally open. The medals still shone, untouched by time. I placed Moore's photo beside mine and wrote one last line in the notebook I'd carried all these years. "The watch ends. The remembering doesn't." Then I closed it, set it by the window, and listened as the wind moved through the trees, like a whisper passing through generations. I wouldn't need to return next Sunday. Someone else would. Because stories like his, like ours, don't end in silence. They echo,